to get better distribution in the States.
Yeah, I was just thinking, yeah, those magazines are out there, and a lot of them are really good, but you do have to, much like when you're going through independent musicians, you do have to dig, because well, speaking of time, wasted time, even flip opening the cover, with some of these. You can
Well,
tell they're pretty
yeah,
amateurish.
they're fighting for shelf space,
Hmm.
and I mean, it's no different than the grocery store. Everything's political. Like, I, and this is no conspiracy stuff. Anybody who's interested in these sort of things, marketing, and payola is alive and well in every aspect of our government,
Absolutely.
and even grocery stores. There's a reason why there there's reasonable politics to why like certain products are like at eye level, and then some, and
Why do
they
you think the candy's at eye level to the little kiddies?
what's that?
Why do you? I work in retail and know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah,
Why do you think, it's all marketed to the target audience? Why do you
it
think
is
candy at the checkout line is way down below? Like a grown-up would have to bend over to
exactly.
pick it up, but yet the Rugrats, right there in front of them.
Yep, yep, and as long as we're in a commerce-driven society where money talks, bullshit walks, that's how
Hmm.
it's always going to be.
Yeah.
So with all the optimism about the downfall of the record labels and the rise of the independents, it's still when you stand back and look at it, um, the commercial monopoly still is raking it in. I mean, yeah,
Hmm.
they're going down, and they are seeing. They're suffering on their own end too, but they still are the powerful elite.
Hmm.
It's just like government. It's like, as long as we have a two-party system, that's really what runs. That transcends into pop culture and everything
Hmm.
else. There's really, you're either outside or you're in.
Yeah, it's really funny, and they were kind of talking about this in the chat room as you and I have been chatting here. Is the record music industry is blaming, as I think Kevin put it, they're blaming peer to peer. They're blaming like it on the file sharing for their decline. They're blaming it on the digital instead of embracing the digital media. They demonize it, and it's always been my theory, that they demonize it because they can't control it. It's like
Exactly.
they shut down one file sharing
Right.
website, another one pops up in its place. They go and find one format that they're using to share files, they shut that down, something else pops up into place. It's like pulling weeds. The music industry hates it. The music industry hates shows like this, because
Right. Right.
we give you guys the platform to be heard. And yeah, not a huge audience. I can't compete with the awards show, but you know what? I can guarantee you this is that my audience is engaged in tune and paying attention, whereas the awards show, it's all a bunch of bubblegum pop, and 90% of that's probably freaking commercials anyway. And
It's despicable. It's the arrogance is still the attitude that they still are clinging to that old school mentality that if you're not signed to us, you're irrelevant. And they're still, they've always been the keepers of the brass ring. We'll
hmm
tell you, we'll decide. There's only room for so many, and we will bless you with fame. Otherwise, and they still look at the world like that, and they will go down with the ship eventually. Because damn it, I mean, they're just, the fact is that the rise of the independent artist is screwing them, and they can't stand it. Because you take whatever major act they have,
hmm
well, as successful as any of their major acts are, whether they're Lady Gaga or U2 or whoever they are, yeah, these acts are selling a lot of CDs, but see, they'd be selling way more if it wasn't for the rise of um, the independent artists. The independent artists having so much more, power and being able to, because before the internet, you couldn't sell. The only way you could sell CDs was at your shows.
Right.
But basically, before the internet, CD, it was, the internet's still fairly new. It really wasn't until like the mid '90s that it really took off. So it hasn't been around that long, and I think people are still dealing with the reality of all this power and how it's affecting things. And I think the last people to really who are really denying it is the music industry monopoly. They're still clinging to the old school mentality. Of they're not accepting the power of the song and the fact that independent artists out there are the possibility is there to make a good amount of money just on individual songs. They're still clinging to that old concept of putting out an album, selling units.
Right.
The fact is that the units are down. They're CD sales are down for the majors, and they hate it. And the enemy is us. The enemy is the independent artist who. The internet is the tool that with that internet, with this internet, is the portal to you could do all the things that only the major labels could do before. With this internet, you can be your own publicist, you can be your tour manager, you can be your own promoter. You can you can contact anyone you want to contact.
Yeah, and in so many ways to promote, and and people are, because of the newness of the internet, like you just pointed out, people are thinking of new ways to promote themselves online. And
Right.
going back to the music industry, Deb makes a brilliant point. They can't stand it and they can't stop it, but they do try.
Yeah, and they'll continue to try. And I mean, the best thing, to see, the thing is, okay, I as long as people feed the beast, though, as long as the masses feed the beast, it won't go down. I'll use an example. It's right here in Chicago. I live about an hour and a half from a major metropolitan city called Chicago, and we have the Chicago Cubs. And the Chicago Cubs are a pathetic baseball team. They haven't won a World Series in 100 years, and they've proven time and time again to me that they're not worthy of my attention, but yet, people continue to pack Wrigley Field. They're loyal to the Cubs. People actually get angry. I've had people get angry with me when I say, no, I'm no longer a Cub fan. I used to be. But I reached a point where they weren't deserving of my time and attention because they've proven themselves not worthy of it because they can't produce a winner.
Right.
But yet people continue to feed the beast. That's the Chicago Cubs, so there's no incentive to change. See, there's no incentive to build a winning team. So I use that as an example. As long as people watch these award shows on television, as long as they listen to their car radios, what's dictated to them on those car radios, as long as they buy magazines, these like People magazine or whatever, or, the Inquirer or whatever, as long as Americans feed the beast that is the lowest common denominator of American pop culture, it will sustain. It's all cost and demand. So we're all guilty to some extent. I try to do my part by keeping the car radio off.
Right.
And I think if every American did that, lovers of music, if there was like a countrywide boycott of the car radio, the advertisers would crash. They lose their advertisers, and then they They would give the American people what they demanded, and it's no different than our